Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to our newest podcast, a new show here on the Pro Wrestling Archives called Legends. And our first worker that we're going to talk about on this episode of Legends is none other than the Ultimate Warrior. I grew up watching Warrior. I remember when he beat the Honky Tonk Man for the Intercontinental title, and then saw his rise to fame. It was very similar to The Rock's. The Rock was almost like as far as the route that he went to get to the top is very similar to The Rock. He got so over with the fans that he had to be given the main event slot. And I was a fan of his, man. We used to go to the Spectrum shows when I was a kid, and in Philadelphia, we would see Hogan come out and do his shit for way too long at shows. I would sit down for it. I would get tired of it. So when the Warrior would come out real quick and to the point, the whole place would go fucking ballistic. I was an Ultimate Warrior fan. WrestleMania 6 came around. Hogan Warrior. I remember the hype for that match. It was almost like a fucking Mike Tyson match or a Muhammad Ali boxing match. It was huge. Who was going to take it down? You know what I mean? I was rooting for Warrior. And a lot of people were rooting for Hogan, but there were people like me who wanted Warrior to win. And when Warrior did win, we went ballistic. That was one of the better... when you're really rooting for somebody and then they either win or they lose, that was one of the better ones where we as the people got what we wanted, or at least us as little warriors. Yeah, man. So then Ultimate Warrior kind of flops as the world champion because of money disputes with the boss Vince McMahon, and becomes this obscure, I don't know what the right word is, kind of enigma of, did all these rumors start flying, did the Warrior die, or is there a different Ultimate Warrior, what is going on here? And then you hear about the lawsuits, and you hear about the, like his comic book idea and stuff like that, and, he's somebody that I think kind of lived that gimmick. You know what I mean? Like, I was watching some shoot interviews just recently from a couple years before he passed, and he's fighting. He's fighting the shit for real in real life. So yeah, man. Ultimate Warrior then planned to come back in '96 in the WWF, and he got in and he tore through a couple people, and then it was a very short-lived comeback. However, I did like the new addition to the Warrior, which was that. That cool ass kind of fucking almost like graffiti like jacket or robe that he wore. That was pretty fucking cool. I might have to get one of those in the future. So then the Warrior shows up in WCW, and he is there to destroy the NWO and Hollywood Hogan, and it turned out being something that it looked like Hogan just really wanted a win over Warrior. He wanted that match back, which is kind of a strange thing. And Warrior kind of laughed it off in a lot of interviews. And the match that they had, it was fucking hysterically bad. Hogan tried to throw a fucking fireball like he's in Japan or some shit. And if I had to give somebody that match, I would give it to Hogan just because he missed throwing a fireball, which was fucking hysterical. Some of Warrior's promos around that time were just fucking awful. I gotta call it how I see it, you know what I mean? Because when I was younger, the thing that I liked about Warrior was his entrance, his look, his electricity, and even a lot of people they give Warrior a hard time, man, because of the way he conducted business. But his promos were off the hook as a kid. Some people would say, no, that didn't make sense. He knew how to connect with us. I was about 5 years old when Warrior was doing his thing. That motherfucker knew how to connect with the crowd. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. This is why we do this podcast, because there's been so much shit talking about the Ultimate Warrior. And I'm just here to tell you, I was one of the kids who, fucking loved the Ultimate Warrior. When the WWF video games were coming out in the arcade, You know, I wanted to be Warrior, man, and I wanted Demolition on my team. That was the squad, dude. Warrior and Demolition, and Mr. Perfect Kurt Hennig. I know that there was there was a lot of different faces and heels back then, but if you want to know who the best guys in the World Wrestling Federation were back then, no doubt in my mind, Kurt Hennig, Demolition, Ultimate Warrior, Rick Rude, DiBiase, Savage, all those guys, man. But this is what I want to say, man. Then the Ultimate Warrior does all kinds of shoot interviews on YouTube. You can't take away the shoot interview aspect of this unfolding of wrestling history. Warrior came at Hogan. He came at Kev Nash. He was coming at anybody, and he was not fucking around in those interviews. He was going for the throat. And a lot of that has to do with the way that Warrior was remembered. He was not happy with how he was remembered, and he knew he had to rise above that. And, I would say the Warrior got that, man. Then, in the last moments of his life, he gets inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame, which I believe he was holding out on for a long time, and then shows up on Monday Night Raw, gives a crazy speech, as only the Ultimate Warrior could, and then passes away the next day. It was real freaky. It was real legendary. And in that promo, the Warrior talks about, that, the folklore of what the Ultimate Warrior is lives on through the fans. So I just wanted to give props to the Ultimate Warrior here. I didn't know the man personally. I don't know his story. I don't know how he was in and out of the ring. But one thing I do know is that the Ultimate Warrior absolutely was a hero to a lot of fans in the World Wrestling Federation. A lot of kids. And like the Warrior says, you just can't beat that.